Hello friends, welcome to my channel The Storyteller. Grab the popcorn and soda and the story will start in 3, 2, 1. Antonio, an elderly man, is turned away from the reception desk of a 5-star hotel because his clothes and appearance are not up to par with the other guests. But when he was finally able to reveal his identity, no one believed the mess that had been made. They say that the way we treat people, especially those we don't know, is the key to identifying our nature and whether we are as fair and intelligent people as we think we are. In today's moving story, we'll learn about Antonio's story and how being kicked out of a hotel reminded him of the most important things about our relationships and communication with people. An elderly and exhausted man stopped on the sidewalk and looked at the 5-star hotel across the street. He wore ordinary clothes and a pair of shoes already a little worn from wearing them so much to work. The gentleman passed through the automatic door of the hotel and entered the reception. The space was spotless. Modern decor, padded seating, and a shiny floor that reflected the light coming in through the large windows. At the front desk, a well-dressed woman stood, with impeccable posture and light makeup, showing off expensive-looking high-heeled shoes. When the man in plain clothes and worn shoes stopped next to her, the well-dressed woman looked her up and down. It took less than 2 seconds for her to judge that this gentleman was not a guest or a customer. She thought it was someone who needed some kind of information and prayed it wasn't a homeless person who had come in to disturb the guests. It seemed that at any moment the old man's shoe would split open. To top it all off, he had 2 sweat stains under his armpits and a stubble that gave an even older and unkempt look to his appearance. He approached the well-dressed receptionist and she tensed, wondering what would happen next. The old man greeted her and said he needed a room for the day. As he said that, he took his wallet out of his pocket. It was an old wallet too and didn't seem to have much money in it, noted the woman next to the man. She saw only a credit card and what appeared to be a series of documents. Nothing to indicate he was like most guests at a 5-star hotel. The woman then made a sign for him not to continue looking for money, card or whatever it was in his wallet, as he would not be able to book an access room that day. "All the rooms are already occupied," she said. The old man put his wallet away and took a good look at the girl at the reception desk. Her name was Juliana. He said, "Look Juliana, I went through a lot to get here. I can't go around town looking for a room and I think you have at least 12 rooms available." Behind Juliana was a row of access cards with room numbers next to them, probably indicating that those cards hadn't been taken by anyone yet. Cornered, the receptionist thought it best to be honest with that man and tried to explain the situation without losing her cool. "My lord, understand. This is a luxury hotel that caters to a Class A clientele who usually arrive here by car or executive taxi and not those who enter on foot. It's not a place everyone can afford. We have a reputation in the city and we cannot jeopardize it by giving one of our vacant rooms to someone who is not on the same social level as the rest of the guests. You understand me, don't you?" The old man listened to everything with the same patience that the girl showed, but her look seemed downcast with tiredness and more disappointed with each sentence she uttered. He then said that Juliana was mistaken and that all he wanted was a room at that hotel, as it had been a long time since he had rested. It could even be the simplest room with the worst view, it didn't matter. But Juliana just said that that wasn't how things worked there. The old man then asked to speak to management, but the hotel supervisor appeared. The supervisor's name was Marcos and he introduced himself without reaching out to the man. Juliana quickly explained what was going on, and Marcos never stopped looking the man in the eye, maintaining a rigid posture. Marcos agreed with the receptionist and told the old man that a few blocks ahead there was a hotel with less stars, that he could be attended there, but the man refused to walk in the direction indicated by the supervisor. So Marcos asked the security guard to intervene, who grabbed the old man and dragged him to the front door. When he was halfway there, the supervisor asked the security guard to stop. The old man thought that finally those people had realized the mistake they were making, but that wasn't it. The supervisor told the security guard to take him out through the service entrance, as he wouldn't look good if they saw that scene right at the hotel's social entrance. The security guard was a brute man. He led the old man down a corridor to the back of the hotel. The old man protested and said that everyone was making a mistake and that he wanted to talk to management, but the security guard just did what the supervisor told him to do. When they arrived at the service area, they came across Lucia, who was operating the hotel's washing machines. Seeing the big security guard using so much force against an elderly man, she told him to stop it. The security guard respected Lucia, so he released the man. Why act like that? And why is he leaving here through the back? She asked. Is this how we treat people now at this company? The security guard said he was just following orders, and that if she didn't like it, she should complain to the supervisor. Lucia said the service entrance was her responsibility and that she would take care of the rest. The brute left saying that the old man was her responsibility then, and for her to handle the situation herself. Lucia approached the man, introduced herself, and asked his name. You can call me Antonio, he replied, closing his eyes and putting a hand to his head. Lucia promptly took a white pill out of her pocket and offered it to him. Does your head hurt? She asked. Take the aspirin, you'll get better. The old man thanked him and the woman said her shift was over, now she was waiting for her husband to come get her. Meanwhile, a pair of chambermaids appeared in the service area and saw Lucia with a man, who, in addition to his slightly advanced age, simple clothes, worn-out shoes, was now all wrinkled and disheveled. They wasted no time and provoked their colleague, saying that they knew that her husband was not the most capable person on earth, but that exchanging him for that man there in the workplace was already too much, rock bottom. Well, how funny you two are, isn't it? You're going to work, are you? Lucia responded. Antonio was not offended and even found the maid's impudence amused, but he also noticed that Lucia was embarrassed. The maids left laughing and Antonio wanted to know what the comment was about her husband not being a capable person. Lucia took a deep breath and began to tell the story. Her husband, Christian, was now physically handicapped after losing his leg in a hit-and-run. A driver ran a red light and slammed the front end of his car into Christian's body as he was crossing the street. The accident shattered his leg. He was seen by a rescue service and had to be urgently taken to the operating room. Doctors tried, but his leg was hopeless. She ended up amputated. It is clear that Christian was not happy with this consequence of the accident, but he did not despair. Vera said that despite everything he was grateful to have survived and that he believed he still had a promising future. Christian's youth had been difficult. He never knew his father and his mother died of cancer when he was a teenager. He spent a lot of time living in a halfway house. He finished his studies and started working. He met Lucia and they struggled to scrape together their monthly income to live together in a very small and simple house on the outskirts of the city. They had no children. Apart from that modest residence, the couple's only possession of value was a popular car that they had bought with 4 years of a lot of savings and sacrifice. The husband used the car to work as an app driver and at that moment he should already be arriving to pick up his wife at work. Antonio accompanied Lucia to the exit from the service area, where security had wanted to shoo him away a few minutes ago. Lucia invited him to see her husband and their home. Antonio didn't expect that and didn't react at first. He was exhausted and hadn't resolved the situation at the hotel yet, but he thought it might be a good idea to get to know the couple better and then come back. When Christian arrived, the two got into the car and drove towards the house on the edge of town. Lucia's husband was really a nice guy, he knew how to talk and he didn't find the sudden friendship between her and Antonio strange. So that Christian could drive, the car was adapted for his physical disability. Throughout the journey, Christian never complained about life, which kept an air of lightness between the three. At the most, he commented that he had a pain in his lower back, but he didn't know if it was because of the accident or because he spent the whole day sitting down driving. I think I need to walk more, he said jokingly, and Antonio laughed. Antonio realized that he hadn't felt this loose and at ease with anyone in years. He was able to rest at Lucia and Christian's house without having to stop talking to the two. The hours passed. Lucia thought that the old man might not have anywhere to go and invited him to spend the night. Antonio accepted it and slept on the old sofa in the living room. The next day, Antonio got up and tried to fix his hair and shirt using his own hands, refusing Lucia's offer, which offered to iron his clothes. Antonio just asked Christian to drop him back at the hotel, since Lucia was going there too. And it was through the service area that the two entered. Lucia did not dispute the man's actions, but feared that he might be expelled again or that worse would happen, as Marcos, the supervisor, might want to call the police this time. Antonio crossed the corridors at the back of the hotel until he reached reception. Once there, he stopped in a corner while Juliana was talking to a woman in a suit. The badge said that her name was Fatima and that she was the manager of the place. Antonio approached and Juliana felt butterflies in her stomach when she saw him again in reception. She asked the manager for permission and went towards him, already saying that he had to leave. Seeing the receptionist's behavior, Fatima turned pale. Antonio ignored Juliana and started talking directly to the manager. "Fatima, how are things going here? I was one step away from giving you a promotion, putting you in charge of more hotels in our chain. But these people here don't seem to have the slightest idea who they work for." Fatima started to apologize to Antonio when Juliana finally realized that she was ahead. To the owner of the hotel, she asked 1,000 pardons, saying that she did not recognize Antonio dressed like that. Antonio said that he tried to identify himself, that he took out his wallet to show his documents to Juliana, but that the receptionist wouldn't even let him introduce himself. He was wearing simple clothes because once a month he did volunteer work at an animal shelter in that area. He had spent a lot of time organizing things at a shelter and didn't realize he had no cell phone to call a car to take him home. So he decided to go to one of his nearest hotels. But for Antonio, all this was the least. He said the treatment they gave him was unacceptable, not because he owned the place. That treatment was cruel, without the slightest consideration for the human person. Antonio said that he would have to review the role of all employees in that hotel and he had no way of guaranteeing that the manager, supervisor, receptionist and security would keep their jobs. However, he made it clear that Lucia, the person in charge of the service area, had shown herself to be much more capable of dealing with the situation. For what it was worth, all the stress caused by that incident was that Antonio had found someone he could trust and who wasn't letting the hotel's 5 stars dictate his behavior. Juliana asked that she not be sent away, as she recognized her mistake and was willing to change. So, Antonio said okay, she could stay, but she would have to do a month's internship in the hotel's service area, where she wouldn't work with pretty clothes, jewelry, heels and makeup. Juliana said that she would not do that, that she would not participate in that punishment. She would feel humiliated and demeaned, unacceptable. Antonio looked at her with pity, placed his hands on her shoulders and said with all the calm in the world, "Do you mean that you think being a cook, cleaning lady and chambermaid is humiliating? Do you think these people are not up to you? For know that they are very worthy, and punishment is what you do to us all with your arrogance. The only unacceptable thing here is your lack of humility. The following day, a man in a suit and tie arrived late in the afternoon at Lucia and Christian's house. He introduced himself and said he was taking care of business for Mr. Antonio. At that point, Lucia already knew that the old man she met the day before was actually her boss at the hotel, and she couldn't believe everything that happened. However, the man in the suit was there to deliver good news. Christian would get a prosthetic leg and physical therapy for his pain. They would also have a better and more spacious home in another part of town, closer to the shopping district. Also, if Lucia agreed, they would pay for a crash course in business to prepare her for a higher level position at the hotel. Lucia and Christian were stunned by the news. They were happy, but at the same time they thought they were too many gifts for a couple who hadn't done anything special for that old man. The man then replied that the world had become a place full of mean, proud and selfish people. An act of kindness like what Lucia and Christian had shown was rare, and it made Antonio realize what really matters in life and reminded him of what it was like to be around people who made other people feel good. If you liked this video, I ask you, please, to reciprocate with affection by leaving a thumbs up, and this video that is showing up on the screen will probably move you too. Good session for you, and until the next video.